biggest misconception business owners have about selling or stepping back from their business?
I would say it's a timing thing.
Okay.
What I mean by that is people think I have to, and today might be a great day as we're wrapping into the end of 2025, early 26. Maybe some valuations in some businesses are as high as they've ever been. Private equity is a reason for that. And there's other factors, but they might be thinking, this is my moment in time to sell. But I don't think that they really are doing themselves a service or justice, I should say, because they don't know all the other parts. They're focused on the value of the business. And when I get out, what does it look like? How can I get the most for that? It's literally like we deal with stocks all the time. So it's almost like trying to time it to the moment of selling at the highest peak. The difference is most of those businesses aren't valued by the second like it is on Wall Street. So rather than focus, I guess my answer to your question is rather than focusing on selling at the absolute peak that you can get, you should spend far more time thinking about what do I personally, as an owner of that business, need when I'm no longer attached to it. Right now, it's my income, and as you just said, Ben, that income gets taxed in different ways. When I'm no longer earning that type of income, I go to some passive income and some other types of income that are taxed a little bit differently. How does that change play out? How much do I need? How long do I expect whatever to live? What about my family? And then the other part is like, what am I going to do when I'm not working on the business? So there's a lot that they don't think about and they just focus on the absolute most I can get from my business. I think that's a
Mm,
mistake. You might find out if you do your homework over here, you might have a lot of flexibility and you can take your time and sell your business the right way so you can be proud about how you stepped away or how you transitioned to the next generation or to the third party seller. It's hard to let go of that thing. You've probably spent a lot of years building it, and to just sell it and walk away and have no attachment or affection to it, that almost never happens.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and how you value the business. I mean, that's kind of a something small business owners struggle with terribly. Is the misconception that they may have oftentimes is what it's actually worth,
Mm,
high or low. I see a lot of times when the conversations start, and you say, "Well, what do you think your business is worth?" They just start naming what pieces of equipment and buildings they own. And yeah, you can go appraise all that and just basically have a sale of equipment and real estate, but your business is worth the business's earning power, and the industry you're in and the earnings of the business determines how much you can get for your business. So that takes, like Bob said, that takes some planning and time to figure out. It's not as simple as just sticking a price tag on all your stuff, right? It's a process to look at industry data and figure out what your earnings power is now and what your earnings potential is in the future.
hmm And that's really interesting because you put those together. If those are the top two misconceptions that you see, yours is trying to time the sale, and then yours is the price of what you're trying to sell. If that's what you're focused on and you have a misconception around both of them, yikes.
Hmm.
If that's
Hmm.
all you have the wrong number and you only care about timing and you haven't considered any of the other stuff, ooh,
Yeah.
that could be deep
It's
water that
stressful.
you
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
really
Well,
stressful.
they say that I think the stats are somewhere around 75% of business owners that sell their business are unhappy and regret doing that a year later.
Oh.
I don't think it's a financial thing. The majority of that is we're both examples of this. Like you've done nothing but work on your business. And
Mhm.
it feels like work sometimes, but sometimes it's your lifestyle. And you're just used to doing that. I go on vacations. I open the laptop. I enjoy doing that even on a vacation at times. But to just suddenly, if I don't have something to fill that void gets so big, people get depressed. It's
Mhm.
hard to adapt. Not everybody does it. Some people like, can't wait. Here's the keys.
Yeah.
Enjoy my business. I'm out of here.
Sure.
And that's great. Usually it's because they have something that they can't wait to get into. It's that next chapter. But most business owners are so busy businessing, which
Mhm.
isn't a real word. They're so busy doing that lifestyle, they haven't picked their head up to figure out what they're going to jump into. So there's a transition period. And I think it's that first year.
Yeah.
And it probably causes a lot of strife between spouses. Like the one spouse is probably like, I wish you would go back to work
Yeah.
because you're driving me insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot of planning to need to do. And then related to the tax conversation we've been having, what financial and tax decisions should owners be making and considering? Let's say, like, seems like that 3 to 5 year window, like 3 to 5 years out from retiring and exiting the business is a sweet spot. I've heard you both say that in different conversations.
Hmm.
So, what tax decisions should owners be making in that window?
Yeah, there's a lot. And I would say that window is a minimum
Mhm.
if you're really serious about a sale in the future and not, just giving it to one of the kids or something or,
Yeah.
whatever. But even if you do plan to give it to one of the kids, those plans don't always work. So it's best to always be ready. But as far as, tax decisions, you have to look at the structure, the tax type of your business,
Mhm.
how it's taxed. Should you change to a pass-through entity? Can you? Do you have issues with earnings and cash inside your business that you need to work towards resolving before a sale happens? So you have to look at structure and position today, and if there's anything to fix for tax effectiveness at the time of the sale would be one. And then, likewise, if you're sitting on too much in assets inside, or you have unrelated activities, a lot of times you get long-term businesses and it's time for a sale, and you have three businesses that are just
Mm.
stuck under this shell. You may have a hard time selling that whole thing
Mhm.
because you're going to have a hard time finding a buyer for the whole thing.
Mhm.
So I don't know if I'd call it a tax decision. It might be more of a legal and structure decision. But we're getting into quite a lot of division work where you try to do divisions and reorganizations of your company to get unrelated things standing alone separately, and you could sell those pieces, or maybe you really like one of those pieces and you want to keep it, but you're done with the other sectors of the business. But you may have some work to do to just clean up what you have now.
There's a lot there.
Yeah, it
There is
is.
a lot
Well,
It
there.
is.
and I'm thinking because as you're describing that, the other thing that pops in my mind is all those different pieces. Like if you have a substantial company, each piece probably has one or several people attached to it.
Sure.
And then so you start getting, there's an emotional side there too. And what am I going to do with this or that? And so it's just, it's hard to, I think a lot of clients, a lot of folks in that position find it hard to start because it seems overwhelming,
Yeah, for
right? If
sure.
you literally stand at the base of a hill, you're like, oh my gosh, that's so high up. I'm not going to climb. It literally is the first step. And I think that's where we come in. We're like, it's a big task, but we have, if as Ben said, if you're doing it right, you have years to get to the top of that hill.
Mhm.
Here's the first couple of steps. And
Yeah.
and then once you start doing it, it's just another step. And you take off bite-sized steps makes no sense. So that's a horrible analogy. But you know what I'm saying? Step by
Yeah.
step. And as long as you have someone to walk you through and keep you on the right path, it's not as hard as it sounds, but you have to commit to say, hey, this is something I need to do.
There has to be that moment of saying, okay, this is big and I'm still going to do it.
Yeah. Even if you don't end up with a sale, if you clean up your structure and you get a lot of those things ironed out, it's not easy to get there.
Yeah.
It's a process. It might be an expensive process and a long process, but getting there and ending up with, clean operating entities with the right structure and proper cash flows and earnings and all that stuff is, generally it kind of simplifies things. It might sound odd to say, well, now I have two or three companies instead of one, but it's not one big jumbled mess.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Yeah.
that's kind of a specific scenario. Not everybody has that multiple activities, but it's something I see a lot. Maybe the real estate's tucked in there and you want to keep it. You just have to look at all those different things you have under your business and what needs cleaned up.
Hi, it's Bob Brown, co-host of this podcast and partner and certified exit planning advisor at Stonehouse. Now, let me ask you a question. Have you ever been quietly thinking about stepping away from your business? Maybe not this year, but sometime soon. If so, you're not alone. And good news, you're not behind. At Stonehouse, we work with business owners who are in exactly that place, wondering what the next chapter looks like, how to prepare for a sale or a transition, and how to start building a financial future that's just as organized and intentional as the business you built. We understand the hesitation, the emotion, the complexity, because it's not just about the numbers. It's about identity. It's about timing, taxes, legacy, and what comes after that. The first step is just a conversation. No pressure, no pitch. Go to stonehouseINV.com/exit to request a confidential meeting with one of our advisors. We'll meet you right where you are and help you start building a plan that supports your goals and feels right.